Why did I decide to run? Oh my goodness, seems so long ago now. I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my life, and I realized I wanted to have impact and help people. And I was at school in the US after the 2016 election there, and they elected a terrifying monster. And it made me realize we were completely out of time, and I needed to be in a place where I knew I had the power to help other people. So that's what spurred me. And then I looked at policy and what I was good at and was like, okay, well, I have to go home to Canada to run, and I have to go back to where I'm from because it's the only place that makes sense to start. And I decided to run federally because it's the issues that I know that I'm going to be best at working with. And I have experience with tech policy from conversations with my advisor and work with his organization. So that was that decision. And then I had to find a party, which was its own process. Basically, I'm not very partisan. I did a process of elimination. And so conservatives were first off that list. There was no PPC, so actually, you know what, I wouldn't go there because they deny me my identity, so it doesn't really matter. The conservatives were first off the list because I can't get behind their policies. Yeah. The stuff that I take seriously, I don't feel like they actually address. And a number of issues, really. And then next was the Liberals, and I was really disappointed that they'd broken some major promises. I read through their platform, I was like, okay, but they didn't actually really accomplish enough of it. And they also now protect their incumbents. So even if I had wanted to say, well, I'm going to try to work within the Liberal Party and bring these policies forward, I didn't have an avenue to do so in my own riding.
What are the things that you feel with the Liberal government aren't working and that you feel need to be addressed the most?
Well, I feel like there's a good amount of doublespeak in terms of policies they've actually brought forward. So this election is largely about the climate to some extent. Yeah. And so they brought their climate plan forward. But
they changed their sign green.
They changed their sign green, literally greenwashed themselves for it. And I felt like that was actually the exact type of thing that I have a problem with. Is they say, well, we're gonna hit our targets by 2050 and steps before then. But we don't have a plan, just hold on, we'll get there. And that just doesn't work for me because it doesn't include all the math that you need to do to actually figure out how to have a plan that you should.
It's weird because like I feel like recently what I've been seeing is the Greens kind of, or the Liberals trying to pretend to be the Greens, and then the NDP trying to just throw the Greens under some weird kind of bus. Yep. And it was weird because the Liberals changed their campaign slogan to almost something identical as the Greens.
Yeah. They're choose forward and we're forward together. And we released ours first. So it really was like
it's like almost like we're going green face.
And
so
then
to speak.
It's all that on top of what happened after the last election. So the things that mattered to me most were a conversation about electoral reform and not buying a pipeline, not letting the pipeline project go forward, and definitely not buying a pipeline, and also taking steps to address serious crises. And so there's a lot of measures that I think that they've started down the right road, but I don't understand why it's taking them so long. And that is actually the problem I have. So, for instance, bringing clean water to First Nations and Indigenous communities, I don't see why that needs to take years.
Up until this week, just looking at the polls, which are shaky in this area at best, it was looking like the Liberals and the Conservatives were kind of in deadlock, followed by the NDP, followed tightly by yourself. And so what has happened this week, and what does that even mean?
Yeah, so I'm going to address the vote splitting briefly.
Yes.
And so when I have experience in tech policy. I'm bringing forward policy on AI and automation, and I have the scientific and technical background to actually discuss that. And one of my worries is that policy isn't properly created when you don't have anyone with technical knowledge close to it. So that's what I'm hoping to do. And I brought that to the NDP, and they kind of were just like, whatever. So I went and talked to the Greens. They're like, oh, that sounds important. So I said, okay, what's about that impact as well? And when I got there, I was worried about splitting the vote. Like, okay, I'd heard this narrative my whole life. And then I got on the ground, and that's not my experience at all.
Okay.
So the people who are voting green, the people who are voting for me, want to vote green, and they want to vote for me. Or they are so fed up with every single other party that this is where they are. And they want somebody to be a representative, not somebody hyper-partisan, not somebody who's just a politician. So we have our own brand, and we bring our own thing to the table. And so, especially with the opponents that I have, I'm not splitting an NDP vote, because if they like Sven, they're voting for Sven. And if they don't, then they're going somewhere else. But the people who are voting for me, their second choice is an NDP, because if it was, they would be voting NDP this time. So, yeah, I heard that narrative all my life, and then I'm meeting people, and that's not where they are.
So yeah.
What happened this week?
What happened this week? Let's
Yeah,
get to the
so,
hot gossip, because that's what, everyone who's been following this riding, it's already a riding to watch. What happened this week?
So this week, some past comments by the Conservative candidate came to light in video form, and they were published by a couple different journalistic outlets.
Yeah.
And she'd said some really horrible homophobic, transphobic things. So one video was a direct support of conversion therapy, which I find horrifying and also personally horrifying, because that kind of means that she would want to put me through psychological torture. And that's an issue on so many levels.
Yeah.
And then the other one was a video against Soji education saying that homosexuals recruit kids. That is also horrifying and just completely off base. So Sven and me and Terry, we all called for her to be denounced by the Conservative Party, and they did, and they kicked her out. So she's no longer an endorsed Conservative candidate.
But she has been spotted putting up signs with the Conservative logo on them since then.
Yes, because we are past the deadline. She can't be taken off the ballot and be replaced by another Conservative candidate, so her name's going to be on there with Conservative, but if she's elected, she won't be a Conservative MP.
So she's running as an independent. Are they going to tell you when you go vote that is there going to be something that...
It's really unclear to me, and I feel like now all our signs are false advertising.
Yeah.
Because they don't endorse her. So if they really don't support her, are they going to do something about her having signs with them on it? Because if they think that her comments are so problematic, that's what she stands for.
Yeah,
Something has to give there.
They censor the signs? How did you feel that changed for your odds?
It probably did me good. Yeah. I don't really know. We have no idea, because we don't know if everyone's going to know that this even happened. And then it comes back to the strategic voting question again. Yeah. Because the narrative has been for so many decades in this country, and why we end up with this liberal conservative thing back and forth is that, oh no, you have to vote liberal, otherwise you get a conservative, and that's the worst thing ever. And yes, to me, the conservatives are worse, but when liberals don't follow through on things and they don't actually bring communities in need all the services that they require to survive, I just want to push for real change.
And I think, obviously. So, do you think, how much of a priority do you think changing the system off of first past the post, how big of a priority do you think that is from the Greens, being in that establishment?
It's high up there. It's up there also, I think, because I think we need to not have first past the post to actually deal with the climate crisis. But we care about representation before anything else, and first past the post is not representative. It was really personal for me during the BC referendum, because I don't feel represented in government, and I know that diversity is often suppressed under first past the post, and going around telling people please, they're like, nah, it works, we don't need to hear your voice, was basically the answer.
Yeah, well, that campaign was beyond frustrating in a lot of ways, and I have some choice words I'm not going to say about the people who ran the fear and misinformation campaign.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you guys, let's say, I hate to be that guy, but there's a chance that the Greens are not going to be a majority government.
Very, very high chance the Greens are not going to be a majority. I'm all good for that.
I don't want to be the person to tell you this first, but there's still 2 weeks. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
And I do have a lot of respect for Elizabeth May. I think that she's been a proven fighter, and I think that her heart is in the right place on a lot of issues that I care deeply about. So let's say you guys, let's say you folks get in as a minority government. what are the things that you think your party is going to fight for in order to form government with potentially the Liberals or the Conservatives?
We would need a legitimate climate plan that meets the IPCC targets. And that includes not having a pipeline project expansion and dialing back all our fossil fuels, and also having a conversation about electoral reform, but not just a conversation, but forming a citizens' assembly.
Okay, so a citizens' assembly to
Determine the system.
Determine the system.
Yeah.
So not just jumping right into MMP.
No.
Okay, so that's where you guys differ.
That is exactly where we differ. And we don't like referenda.
I don't like them either.
But we want there to be a discussion. And so there are concerns with different systems, and I am very wary of party control. So I don't want a party to have the ability to pick who they put forward, because I think that it can also suppress diversity.
You've met, you've met Terry, you've met Sven. Have you met Rocky Dong?
Yes, I have met Rocky.
Okay. And
I've debated Rocky now too. He's been in a couple debates.
He was in the okay.
Yes.
I haven't. I only caught the one that you guys did at SFU.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Is there digital copies of them all?
I would hope so.
Okay, because I do want to watch those in their entirety, because choice.
Yes, it is a very interesting experience.
And you've met Heather as well.
I met Heather once, yeah.
Okay. So you've met all these people that you're running against. I know that generally in politics, everyone wants to get digs on each other and all this sort of stuff, but I want to just try something on for size here. I want you to say something nice about every candidate that is running. Is that a possibility? Or is there something that you like from, if you don't have anything nice to say about any of them, you can just skip?
There's only one that I don't know if I can say anything nice.
Okay, fair enough. So, Sven, what's something that you like about him?
I deeply admire his past history of being an accomplished MP and having worked on some really important issues and being a really good advocate.
All right. What is one critique of Sven?
Yeah, I think a lot of things have changed in political discourse. And there are parts of what I am concerned with that I think he just doesn't understand.
Terry Beach, what's something that you like about him?
Terry clearly means very well, and I think he really cares.
All right, and what is a critique of Terry?
I think that Terry buys into the way that his party goes about things and thinks that that's all he can do. And I believe that an MP can empower themselves to do a lot more than he has.
Okay. Heather Leung, what's something you like
This
about
would
her?
be the one that I don't really have anything to
that's a
say
skip.
because I met her once.
Okay.
So we said hi. That was it.
Okay.
So the only things that I know about her are the horrible things she said about people like me. So that's all I'm going off
And
here.
she doesn't like to speak to media.
Yeah. So I literally don't know enough to comment.
Okay, fair enough. Something negative about Heather. I feel like it was kind of...
It was kind of covered.
And you're something positive for her, but okay. That I guess, okay, fair enough. But
No, something negative about Heather. She's expressed views and has been unwilling to clarify if she still holds them that would erase me as a person.
no, that sounds incredibly valid. Yeah. Do you have more respect for the Conservative Party now that they threw her out so quickly after that? Like, obviously they didn't vet to a certain degree. I
don't know, because political parties do things based on optics, so I can never tell where the heart is.
Fair enough.
But I am actually I'm glad about it, because it means that those things don't belong in the conversation. And people can hold those views, but sexual orientation and gender identity are protected in the charter.
Yeah.
And so it's good to have major parties saying if you cross, there's a line to be crossed here, so that there's a positive thing there.
I was really glad to see both yourself and Sven very no bullshit about those revelations there.
Yeah.
Okay, Rocky Dong, what do you love about the guy?
He is a really sweet person. He clearly also means well.
I kind of gathered that. I've only watched his campaign videos, and
He's an incredibly kind person.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's and something negative. A
The
criticism of,
PPC policies are completely out there and challenge a lot of things that I hold dear as well.
yeah. I think for me, just not calling climate change essentially a hoax is disqualifying.
Yeah, so
degree,
Rocky
the
said he
gender-
believes in climate change, it's just not
Oh.
a crisis. And the climate's always changing. I'm like, science.
Yes, it was winter last year, and it was summer.
My favorite thing, honestly, the favorite thing that I've heard him say about that so far is the climate's always changing, different seasons, day and night. I'm like, oh no! Conservatives are like off the map, don't really have a plan. The liberals say we have targets but no plan. The NDP refuses to ban fracking. Regardless of what my opponent says, his party refuses to ban fracking. And methane emissions are a serious thing. And all the arguments about helping other countries, to me, are bogus because they have economic power far greater than our own and can switch over their countries a lot faster. They really don't need our help. Yeah, other than that, I think between the NDP and the Greens, we kind of focus on slightly different things. We have a stronger target for 2030. I believe that's also important because kind of every change that you make means you're alleviating or stopping some level of suffering somewhere. So the sooner you can help, the sooner you can get to your targets means that we avoid more extreme weather because we're already in there. People across the global south are dealing with this.
You personally proposed a tax.
I did not.
Okay, you did not. Okay, good. I'm glad that this is getting
so robot tax.
robot tax. So first of all, one thing that I really like the idea of a robot tax. Since you guys put it out, I would probably rebrand it as automation tax.
Yeah, and that is what it. Yes. So I have a lot of complaints here.
Okay.
And it has to do with jargon that we used. So I wrote a proposal for the party basically saying we need to look at we need to look to prepare for large scale automation due to many things and kind of things that will be problematic from that and the ramifications of it. And then they're like, okay, we'll tax robots at, well, they actually didn't say robots either. It says like AI or automation in the platform. And then when they're like, oh, well, let's call it something, they went with what Bill Gates said.
Oh, okay. Well,
But the idea is like, we don't have a fully formed way of implementing it because it's extremely complicated. And we're not just going to propose something and say we have the perfect idea for it. Our idea is that we're going to talk to experts and do research and say, with a pending automation revolution, how do we make sure we don't lose a ton of tax revenue? How do we make sure we protect workers?
One thing I've met a lot of people who've been really big fighters for social justice, all that sort of stuff. And when I or fighting for the environment, et cetera, and I always ask them, well, why aren't you running for office? And they're like, oh, geez, no. There's a lot of abuse that someone might take. There's a lot of, it seems like it might be a bit of a toxic environment. So can you tell me a little bit about what you've encountered there and how we might need to change our politics? Because it doesn't seem like maybe a mean observation. You seem a little on edge.
No, it's true.
It.
It's like, because I think what I have learned by running is how deeply broken our system is. And so I'm doing all right because, whatever, if I get random attacks on Twitter, that's just the way people are. That's the internet. The ones face-to-face even, it's like, why are you spending 10 minutes telling me that I'm a horrible person? Like, that says a lot more about you than it does about me. But so that the personal stuff is actually a lot easier to deal with once you prepare yourself for it. What's getting to me is the fact that our democracy is broken.
Yeah.
And that is just, it reflects to me how many people are completely unrepresented, don't feel welcome, and how it suppresses the voices of so many people and the needs of so many people. And the fact that it's exactly this that is what you say. People don't want to get involved, and that's the shame of it. And that's what's getting to me at the end of it. It's nothing to do with even the race that I'm in. It's just what I've learned about the process, which is that perhaps I knew this beforehand too, but we're living in a colonial system full of top-down hierarchies and control and constant suppression of people.
It's hard to have hope some days.
But it's okay, because we're learning about it and we're going to destroy the system. No, we are going to overhaul it eventually. And
I hope, and I really hope that, as much as there is animosity right now between the Greens and the NDP, I hope that we see a post-election future where there's a little...
My frustration is largely to do with partisanship.
Yeah.
Because I hate it. I just want to be there for my community. I don't look at people and judge them by their party or by them. So you can ask me about any one candidate. I'll be like, well, I like them for this or I don't like them for this. And there are a lot of amazing people running for the NDP that I respect a lot. And I want them to have their voices listened to within their party. And just like the party's been very nice to me and listening to me. And I've given them an earful when it comes to diversity. And they're saying, okay, let's talk about how we work on this. And I'm happy about that. But I am so mad that we've gotten to the point where it's just like, oh, lobbing things at each other. I want to push every party to do better, to actually listen to the people that are there rather than trying to present a face or misinformation or kind of anything to get somewhere in some sort of race.
Yeah.
So I wish there was some way that we could encourage participation in democracy in any party by supporting the people to be there. Almost like it's like, okay, we'll cocoon you a bit so that we can work on having better representation.
And do you think, most people vote within party lines, generally speaking? Like, parties are very incredibly, voting blocks. Do you think that having all candidates whipped has hurt our democracy?
Yes. Or at least all candidates whipped to the extent that they are.
Yeah.
So I understand if a party says, okay, well, look, on these things, like, we just can't.
Yeah.
But that section of things has grown to be way too big and way too strong. So that level of party control is definitely been bad.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like, there's only 2 liberals who voted against the keeping first past the post, as far as I know, and generally just a lot of people who fought for specific things, and then they're just...
And it's got to be painful.
It's got to be tough.
That's also the reason I'm green. I just couldn't deal with it.
Yeah, and that's
that's
one of the things that I do find that I do somewhat like about Sven is that he is saying things that don't agree with his party, and it's like...
And that's interesting to me because I talked to the NDP, and I was pretty much warned that by people who were nice, that if I was too independent, they'd shut me down. So that's a privilege that Sven has that I wouldn't have been afforded.
Wow. No, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bold statement. I on that note, just take a deep breath.
Like, God!
Take a deep breath, because maybe this is what I should have started with. I want a 30-second elevator pitch. But maybe if I was to do that, I thought it would be like once you're warmed up. I poked a few nerves there. So.
30-second elevator pitch.
I know
this. Me?
Yeah, and I'm gonna time it.
Why I should win? Oh goodness, I don't do well with timing.
Okay, so just a pitch to those people in this community as to why they should vote for you. And what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
I know it's tough. Okay.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Politics is completely broken. I'm a new voice. I'm a scientist. I know how to work on technical policy, And I'll put my constituents first instead of any party line. I'll be there to have real conversations, and I'll work on the inequities that exist within government and the power structures that have governed us for too long and don't let us actually function as a society or have a proper democracy.
Damn, with 7 seconds to spare.